My name is Wilson Auguste. I've done farm work as far back as I can remember. In November of 1995, I spoke before the National Migrant Farm Workers Committee about my experiences as a farm worker. I learned that many people know very little about the work migrant farm workers do. With this video, I would like to show you a small piece of what migrant farm workers do in upstate New York during the apple harvest. Crops are harvested at different seasons of the year. With my family, I would pick oranges in Florida until they were done, sometimes in July or so. We would then go with a crew leader to Georgia, and we would either pick peaches or we would harvest watermelons. From there, sometimes we had the opportunity to go even further up north, depending on how the watermelon crops were. We would sometimes end up in Missouri and then have to return back to Florida because the apples in New York were not ready to be picked yet. So we would be back in Florida for about a month, or a little more, depending, and from there we would get a crew leader that we knew was going to New York to pick apples. In August or September, we were in New York. I'm fairly young, and farm working has been around for years. I've had the opportunity to live in many camps, and some were not as good as others. When we first came upstate to do farm work, we lived in a house with 2 other families living in it. We had very small close quarters. There was no water. To fill a sink, you had to go outside the building. There was a pump outside where you actually get the water from. The bathroom was an outhouse. There are still a lot of outhouses around, but there are also a few farm growers who are trying to have indoor plumbing for their farm workers. The issue with me with the outhouses is that during this time of the year, we're farm workers who basically come from the South, and it can get pretty cold up here. And to have to take a shower outdoors, ooh. In the apple orchards, there are 3 pieces of equipment which are a necessity, each provided by the grower: a ladder, a bin, and a sack. Apples are not just at the bottom of the tree. They tend to grow everywhere in the tree, and some apples are behind branches and smaller branches and bigger branches, and some are like way on top of the tree, and it is required that you pick every last one of them. You have to clean the tree. And when we put that ladder up in the tree, you need to have the skill to know exactly where to place it so that you can get as many apples as you possibly can on that side of the tree. Because if you don't do it correctly, you might find yourself going up once, twice, or even 3 times to try to get the same apples that you probably could have, had you had enough skill to know where to put the ladder and get them all at the same time. And that's a big factor in how much money you're going to make. The ladder can be very heavy. If you're a lightweight man or woman, you have to get that ladder from one tree to another and hope there's no wind blowing. Once you're in the tree, you pick the apples and put them in your sack. When the sack is filled, you climb down and empty it into a bin. The money you make depends on how many bins you fill. It's hard work. You get up in the morning around 5 o'clock or so, knowing that you worked from dawn till dusk the day before, and you only had time to prepare a little supper, and you had to save some of that to warm up in the morning to eat before you go out. It's to your advantage. The earlier you go and the later you stay picking apples. I can remember a lot of times when I was very reluctant to have to get up so early in the morning to pick in the fields, knowing that I had put everything I had into the day before, knowing that I'm going to put everything that I have again into picking for today, knowing that I have to pick at least 6 or 7 bins to have a satisfactory day. But you also know that if you put in more hours, more of yourself, muster more strength, and are able to come up with 9 or 10 bins, then you can be a little more satisfied. You can look back and see all the work that you did and know that getting up first thing in the morning and staying out there as late as you can amount to something. I mean, you have bills and so forth that you have to pay back at your home base. If you're living in Florida, you're required to pay your electric bills, you're required to pay the rent, you're required to pay whatever it is that you need. So even when it's raining up here and you're not able to pick the apples, the meter is still running back in Florida. So there's a lot of pressure. In fact, some folks actually go out and pick in the range because they know that losing that day would set them back too far. And there are a lot of folks in the migrant stream from different countries, whether it's from Mexico, Haiti, Jamaica, or Guatemala, who have family members who are dependent on them because there's no other work. So there's a lot of pressure to send money back and also to be able to take care of your needs here in the States. There are proud people doing hard work, and the working conditions are pretty tough. And as we know, farm workers are excluded from a lot of rights that other workers in society have the benefits of. You know, I had a conversation with an ex-farm worker, and we were discussing farm workers' issues. And he said that he was hurting based on a commercial that he saw where they painted this, beautiful picture and it showed you these beautiful apples and vegetables and so forth on the grocery stand. And he said there was no mention whatsoever about the people that did the work. And those people he talked about was the migrant farm workers. They are an invisible group of people in this country who are very hard workers. And they get absolutely no respect for what they do.